The night air hummed with energy. The city was alive, neon lights flickering over wet streets, car horns echoing between the tall glass buildings, and laughter spilling from every open door. Inside club vibe, the bass hit like thunder, shaking the floor as dancers moved to the rhythm of Friday Night Freedom. It was the kind of place where stories started, or ended. Mike stepped inside, dressed in simple jeans and a black leather jacket. Nothing about him screamed attention. His eyes, calm yet piercing, scanned the room like a quiet storm watching the horizon. He wasn't there for trouble. At 40, Mike carried himself with the kind of confidence that didn't need words. Years of disciplined missions and survival under the harshest conditions had honed him into someone most would overlook until it was too late. Once a Delta Force commander, now a civilian, trying to find peace in a chaotic world. He had traded the desert silence for city lights, the sound of gunfire for the thrum of music. But war had a way of following men like him, just in different uniforms. He ordered a drink, whiskey. He took a slow sip, the burn of the liquor cutting through the noise. For the first time in a while, he allowed himself to breathe. The flashing lights, the movement, the laughter. It was noise, but it wasn't chaos. It was human. It was life. Across the room, a group of men entered, loud, cocky, and careless. The kind of crew that thrived on attention. They wore designer clothes, gold chains flashing under the lights. Their leader, a tall man with tattoos running up his neck, scanned the club like he owned it. Rico's crew swaggered toward the bar, pushing past people. One of them, a tall guy with braided hair, accidentally or maybe intentionally bumped into Mike's shoulder. The glass tilted, but Mike steadied it before a drop spilled. "Yo, watch where you standing, old man," the guy sneered. Mike didn't look up. "You're fine. Move along." But Rico heard the tone, a calmness that wasn't fear, a steadiness that irritated men who lived off intimidation. Mike's gaze lifted slowly, eyes locking with Rico's. For a moment, the noise around them seemed to fade. Didn't realize existing required permission. That did it. Rico chuckled darkly, flashing his gold tooth. "You got jokes. I like that. But you in my spot, bro." Mike glanced around to the packed bar. "Didn't see your name on the seat." Laughter from those watching the confrontation unfold. Rico's smile faltered. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone who looked so calm, so ordinary. But what he didn't know was that the stillness in Mike wasn't weakness. It was control. It was the same control that had saved men under fire, that had kept him alive in deserts where mercy didn't exist. "Yo, Rico," one of the guys said, stepping closer. "You gonna let him disrespect you like that?" Rico's hand went to his belt. The room tensed. Mike noticed it immediately. The twitch of fingers, the quick glance from one man to another. His instincts flared, reading the danger before it became visible. In his mind, the club's layout mapped itself. Exits, distances, objects that could be used as cover. Old habits never died. They just went dormant. The bartender whispered, "Please don't do this here." But Rico wasn't listening. Mike sighed quietly. "You're making a mistake." That calm voice. It unnerved them more than shouting ever could. "Yo, this dude trying to act tough." One laughed. Another sneered. "Bet he's one of those ex-army types. Thinks he's still in uniform." Rico smirked. "Ex-soldier, huh? Let me guess, you think you a hero?" Mike set his drink down carefully. "No heroes, just survivors." The tension grew thick. Rico's hand slipped into his jacket, and suddenly, a gun gleamed in the dim club lights. Gas filled the air. People froze, ducking behind tables or backing away. The music cut abruptly and the DJ ducked behind his booth. All eyes were on Rico, the weapon, and the man who didn't flinch. Mike didn't move. His breathing slowed, heart steady. Delta Force training wasn't about panic. It was about control, precision, timing. "Last chance, old man," Rico hissed. "Apologize." Mike looked him dead in the eye. "Put the gun down before you do something you can't undo." That tone, low, commanding, absolute, made even Rico hesitate. It wasn't what he expected from a civilian. It was authority, the kind that came from men who'd given orders in war zones. Rico's finger twitched. "You don't scare me." Mike's jaw tightened. Then, movement. One of Rico's men shifted to the side, circling. Mike's eyes flicked for a split second, calculating angles, reading every motion. The bartender stepped back, trembling, as her phone slipped from her hands and clattered onto the counter. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Rico reacted, jerking his weapon upward, and that's when everything changed. Rico's finger tensed on the trigger. The muzzle barely moved before Mike stepped forward, fast, silent, precise. His hand struck the gun wrist like lightning, twisting and wrenching it downward. The weapon discharged, the shot cracking through the bar floor instead of his chest. In the same motion, Mike's elbow drove into Rico's jaw with surgical force. Rico stumbled back, dazed, blood sprang from his mouth. Before the rest could react, Mike pivoted, grabbing the nearest thug's arm, locking it and flipping him over the counter. One of the others pulled a knife. Mike saw it gleam before the man even swung. He sidestepped, grabbed the wrist, twisted, crack! The blade clattered across the floor as the thug screamed, clutching his arm. Rico recovered just in time to see his crew getting dismantled like rookies. Rage and disbelief filled his eyes. He lunged forward again, trying to grab the dropped gun, but Mike's boot pinned it before he could reach. "You move again," Mike said, voice steady, "and I'll make sure you don't walk out." The crowd watched, breathless. The calmness in Mike's tone was more terrifying than the violence itself. It wasn't anger. It was command. Rico looked up, face contorted. "Who the hell are you, man?" Mike crouched slightly, eyes unwavering. "Someone who's seen what real war looks like." Mike stood over him. The lights flickered, catching the faint scars on his knuckles and the glint in his eyes. "No one owns anything when they can't stand." He stepped back, letting the man breathe but keeping his stance ready. Years of training had conditioned him never to assume a threat was over until he was certain. "Man," Rico said through gritted teeth, "you don't even know who you messing with." Mike tilted his head. "No, you don't." Finally, sirens echoed faintly in the distance. The blue and red lights reflected through the glass panels at the front of the club. The tension cracked. Mike exhaled slowly and turned to the bartender. "You okay?" She nodded shakily. "Who are you?" He gave a faint, almost tired smile. "Just someone who prefers peace over noise." Rico spat blood, struggling to his knees. "You think this over, they'll come for you." Mike paused near the door, glancing back. His shadow stretched under the flashing lights like something out of a film noir. "Tell them to bring their best, but next time I won't be this patient." And with that, he left. His exit was as enigmatic as his entrance. A silent tornado that left only the shattered remains of Rico's ego in its wake. As the police stepped inside, Rico seethed, his mind already working out how he'd make this mysterious stranger pay. Outside, the cool night air hit his face. He walked slowly, every step measured. Behind him, police cars screeched to a halt, officers rushing inside. He didn't stop, didn't explain. He'd done his part. Mike's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from an old number he hadn't seen in years. Heard about the incident at Club Vibe. "You okay, Commander?" He froze. "Tough night, huh?" Mike chuckled softly. "You could say that." "World's crazy," the man said, pouring the coffee. "Everyone's got a weapon, no one's got patience." Mike accepted the cup, looking at the rising steam. "Yeah, but sometimes you meet people who just need someone to stand still long enough to make them think." The vendor nodded. "You sound like a soldier." Mike looked up, eyes distant. "Was a long time ago." Gang arrested at Club Vibe after failed assault. No civilian injuries reported. Witnesses describe a mysterious man who subdued the attackers with expert precision before disappearing. In living rooms across the city, people debated. Some called him a hero, others a vigilante, but for Mike, it wasn't about labels. He sat in his small apartment, bruised hands resting on his knees. The faint hum of city life filled the room. Above his bed hung a small framed photo. His old Delta Force team, arms over each other's shoulders, smiling after a mission few ever knew. He stared at it for a long moment. "Commander," one of his old teammates used to say, "you can take the man out of the war, but you can't take the war out of the man." Mike sighed. "Maybe not. But you can learn what to fight for." He stood, walked to the window and watched as the lights of the city pulsed below. So many lives, so many stories. People fighting battles no one saw. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who stay calm when everyone else panics. Mike didn't fight for pride, revenge, or ego. He fought because walking away would have meant letting darkness win again. He wasn't defined by his past as a Delta Force commander. He was defined by the choices he made afterward. His story reminds us that discipline is power. and control is the ultimate strength. In a world full of noise, the quiet man is often the most dangerous one in the room. And sometimes, the hardest battles are those we fight within ourselves. And if you enjoyed this story and want to see more tales of courage, morality, and redemption, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps keep these stories alive, one powerful lesson at a time. A powerful message indeed. Thank you for sharing this story with us.